Hello everyone, welcome to this video. In this one, I really wanted to quickly go over something that I learned a long time back about IP addresses. Especially, it's going to help you if you want to not memorize the different IP classes and you want to learn a trick how to always get that correct. So what I'll do, I'll start with some techniques. So I'll type 1, then 2. Double 2 is 4. If I double 4, it's going to be 8. Double 8 going to be 16. Double of 16 is 32. Then 64. Then the next would be 128. And then 256. Now this series of numbers, it will be very important for you to remember and memorize. Just know that, I mean, it's a simple math, right? Do it. And then what I would like you to do, reverse it and write it down. So we'll do 258, then 128, then 64. I'm just reversing those numbers. So 32, then 16, then 8, then 4, then 2, then 1. So what I did, I wrote this, then just took this 256 here, 250, 128 back in here. So here I'm just dividing by 2. Here I was multiplying by 2. Now over here in the third one, what I want you to do, start with 1, then go to 128. Okay, but from here onwards I would like you to add all these numbers, like 128 plus 64. What is that number? So 128 plus 64, that should give you 192. Then follow the same thing. So 192 plus 32 gives you 224. 224 plus 16 gives you 240. 240 plus 8 is 248. 248 plus 8 is 252. Then 252 plus 2 is 254. And another one, when you add, is 255. Now think about the meaning of this number. 255 means if you have the full octet, 8 bits full in an IPv4 octet, the maximum you can get is 255. Now think about A, class A. So class A, it starts with 1 and then it goes to whatever the next number is, 128 minus 1. So that would be 127. So class B, that starts at 128 and it's going to go to the next number minus 1. So 192 minus 1 is 191. Then let's go to class C. So class C needs to start at 192. Okay, 192, and it is going to go to 1 less than the next number, which is 223. So if I ask you what does class D starts, you should be able to tell, okay, last number ended at 223, so it must be starting at 224, and you would be correct. And how far it's going to? So next number is 240, so it's 240 minus 1 is 239. And class E, which is experimental IP address, it will start at 240 and it really goes down to the very end, so 255. Okay, so once you have this, then you don't have to really memorize all those numbers. A lot of people in IT, they try to remember, okay, class A means this to this and that to that. So now if somebody asks you, okay, 10.0.0.100, what is the IP class? So you just have to kind of build this, and okay, 10 means is between like 1 to 127, so it has to be class A, right? So if I say 199.5.5.6, okay, you will again go back in here, that looks like a class C address, right? And again, if somebody says 223.5.6.22, so you again go back, 223, it's like class C again. Okay, class C. So it's very easy for you to come up with these answers, and there'll be lots of questions in the exams, and you'll be able to easily do that as long as you know how to build it and you don't want to memorize this. Now, a few other things I would mention, that in each, or at least the first 3 classes which are currently being used, there is something called a private IP address. Okay, let me go and verify. If you do go and do a Google, you will have a whole bunch of resources where you will be able to find the A, B, C, D, E, and this one I just went to is studyccna.com. If I copy the image, let's see, let's copy that particular image, and just to double check, we'll put it here and verify that what we did, okay, is correct. So 1 to 127 is class A, 128, 129 is class B, 192 to 223 class A, 224 to 239 is class D, and 240 to 255 is class E. So the next thing that I would like you to remember is the private IP address. Again, I'm just going to do uh, IP address ranges. Okay, so if you do a Google search on it, it's just going to give you, if you just copy that and put it in here. So, and this one, there is no trick. You just have to memorize that one. So for class A, I'm going to put it in here. So you just have to remember that for the class A, 10.0.0.0. So anything that starts with 10 would be a private IP address, and that cannot be used on the internet. It is not routable. For class B, it is going to be 172.16.00 to 172.31.255.255. That is the address. And for class C, what you will have is 122.168.00 to 122.168.255.255. Now this address is very common in home use. So if I do a CMD in my local computer, if I do a IP config, I'm likely to see a 192.168 address. Okay. Now there are a couple other important IP address. So one would be the loopback address. So in this class A, 127 is actually reserved for loopback address. What you will see, a lot of people, they will say, okay, 127.0.0.1, this is actually the loopback address, but it's actually not. It's the whole range. It's 127.0.0.1 to 127.255.254 that will also be considered as a loopback address. Okay, and to do a quick demo, I can do a ping on 127.0.0.1. It's just gonna give you your response back. This is the loopback address, but I can also change it to 100, and I should also be able to get some response back. Do you see that? Okay, so that is one important address. The other one is, so in this range really, 127, the last one is actually reserved for the loopback address. So a lot of times, you can argue that class A actually really stops at 126 for the publicly usable address space. The next one that I want to talk about, 169 to 54. So 169 to 54 would go under class B. So 169.254, and anything after that. So I'm going to just put x.x. So this is another special address, and this is actually called the APIPA. So let's move this in here and write it down, APIPA. So if you do ipconfig and if you see that you have this particular IP address associated with your network interface card, immediately understand that you probably have a problem. It's not getting the proper IP address from the DHCP server, or someone has not configured it properly. And Microsoft, it just randomly put some address in this particular range. Like you may have 169.254.349, somebody else may have 169.254.33, 254, something like that. But this is an APIPA address. Okay, let's see, that's all I think I wanted to cover in this video. But the main thing that you should get out of this one is the importance of these numbers. Okay, and how using this table you can create the IP address class. In the next video I'll explain how this is useful for the subnetting as well. Thank you.